If you are having any kind of issue in your personal life, in your professional life, and you don't know what's causing the issue, if you trace it back, I'm 100% confident it will come back to a communication problem. Too much of it, too confusing, not enough. The good news is, I also believe that communication will be the cure for that. If you can communicate your way into a problem, you can communicate your way out of it as well. So I'm all about speaking concisely, speaking clearly, and speaking with confidence.
Was public speaking something you could always do? Or was there a time when you were terrified of it, as like most people are?
I think as a child, I was desperate for attention. Just didn't not lack it. I just wanted more of it. I liked that round of applause. But I was also thrown into school plays. That's really important. If you are listening to this and you're thinking, oh, my child they need a little bit more confidence. They need to be fearless. Stick them in the school play. It doesn't matter whether it's the nativity. It doesn't matter whether it's just them reading out loud to the rest of the class. The more you can expose a child in their early stages to audiences and nothing to be frightened of, the more you will find that child is able to speak in public or fears it less, or at least won't shy away from saying that thing they need to say in the meeting when they become an adult. So for me, it was all throwing myself in from the very early stages. And I believe anyone can get better at this. You do not have such a thing as people who are just born naturally good speakers. Anyone can build and train and develop just like any other kind of skill.
Public speaking is allegedly the number one fear, and often death is number two. So what does this say about how people must be so scared of being perceived almost?
It's such an interesting one, isn't it? What does it come down to? I think the reason we fear public speaking so much is not actually the fear of saying things out loud. If you think about that, that's madness.
Yeah.
We're saying things out loud right now and it seems to be okay. What we actually fear is judgment, how others perceive us. Now, there are various theories as to why that happens. It's allegedly tribal. We want to be blending in all the time. We want to be friends with each other all the time. And to say something and put your head above the parapet exposes you to, oh my God, this could be me out. If they love it, fantastic. But if they don't love it, I could be out on my ear, and that will certainly result in death. But I like that statistic. I don't know who's running the survey, but in my experience, it absolutely tends to be true.
I can imagine it's true. Yeah. So what could someone do then? They're worried about what others think about them. What are some actionable steps they could take to reduce that anxiety?
If you are worried about what other people think of you, you are not alone. To some extent, we all care desperately about what other people think of us. Even the most confident appearing people I have met, you dig down, and of course they're a little bit worried about what other people think of them. The trick in all of that is to care less. If you care less, you will let go of this perception of, oh my God, I can't do anything or say anything for fear of judgment, and you will start to just put stuff out there. And people can either accept it or not accept it, and you will learn to deal with that. If you want to care less, there are a few things you need to be able to do. You need to try. You need to throw yourself towards the thing you are running from. The more you do something, the better it gets, and accept that that will not feel comfortable. But you don't have a right to feel comfortable all of the time. If you want to improve something, if you want to get better at something, that discomfort is going to be a natural part of that. The other thing you have to accept is not everyone's going to like you. And that's absolutely fine. Human beings don't like other human beings 100% of the time, all the time. Some people will like what you have to say. Some people will love what you have to say. Most people won't even be paying attention. And that is such a relief. There will always be a few people who go, do you know what? I don't agree with you, or I don't like what you're putting out there. Fine. That is absolutely their right. Allow them that right. And then you can just carry on doing and saying the things you want to do and say.
I think we're at a point where we've realised if no one's disagreeing or almost having a problem with what we're doing,
We're not doing it right.
we're not reaching
Absolutely.
anyone.
Yeah.
So that's been the big mindset shift for us, is like we actually kind of want to get a bit of a reaction in a sense, because if we're not, then
Doing something wrong.
we're not doing anything. Exactly. Yeah.
You're not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
We want a bit of hate.
Was that? Yeah. Yeah, I suppose you could say
Bottom
that.
line.
Are you at a point where you don't care what people think?
Oh,
You.
God, no. I obviously care huge amounts what other people think of me. but I know that's how I think. So sometimes when I'm procrastinating on something, a good trick there is to go, why am I not doing this? Is it because I'm lazy? Is it because I'm tired? Or is it because I'm frightened of it being wrong? I'm frightened that people won't like this. I'm frightened that people won't get this. I'm frightened that people just find it so completely weird and off the wall, they won't know what to do with it. And if it's one of those things, I can go, okay, well, I have to accept that if it is too off the wall for someone, that's fine. I can still do it and they can still not like it, but I have to push through that. Often the root of procrastination is not necessarily laziness, it's fear. It's that. What's the judgment going to be here? So if you acknowledge that that's the feeling, you've got a better chance of going, fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway.
How much of all of this is self-esteem?
It's a very good point. There's a big difference between confidence and self-esteem. Self-esteem is something you're going to work on through the years as you get older, as you grow. Confidence can be applied like fake tan. A lot of the time I'm brought in to make my clients look confident. So let's say you've got someone who's running a business, they're talking about their product, and for whatever reason, that public speaking fear, glossophobia, is making them look less confident than they should. And you can make someone pretend to look confident. Here's the astonishing thing. If you make someone pretend to look confident, the audience will start to kind of do this. Just sort of almost mentally nod at them and smile back, and they're going, do you know what? The more I'm pretending to be confident, the more I'm magically starting to feel confident. So confidence isn't just fake it to make it. Confidence is fake it to become it. Self-esteem is something you're going to work on throughout the years.
Would you say I look confident right now?
Be honest.
Roll your shoulders back. Relax a little bit. Breathe out. Look like you want to be in the room. There's a little bit of tension in those
I do want
shoulders.
to be here, but it's like, how do I change myself right now to look more confident?
I think it's exactly that. So you didn't look not confident, but as we were saying before we started filming, you've had a bit of a rough ride this morning with parking. I've had a bit of a rough ride with spilling coffee on myself.
Yeah.
And those little tensions, they just kind of build and build and build. And we could just,
Release.
you've just got to sit back, relax and go, what's the worst that could happen? We're going to have a conversation. She might swear. Ultimately, we'll get what we want.
If I was one of your students and I came to you, I've done one public speech. That is true. I've done one. We did one at our event and it was terrifying. I got up on stage. I couldn't think clearly. I had a great speech planned out. I don't know. You just say the most random things.
Yeah.
Where would you start with me?
You've done one speech, that's a really good thing. So if you're one of my clients, I give you a huge pat on the back for that. Once you've done your first one, everything gets easier. I'm interested in what you've just said there about, I just sort of started speaking and words came out of my mouth.
I think that's my main issue with speaking is I plan it out in my head. I get up there. I say the most ridiculous things. I don't have a clue what I'm saying. And then you go on this tangent and then suddenly you can't stop. And you're just embarrassing yourself.
Too deep.
Too deep. Well, that's not a huge problem, you know. Some people suffer from the opposite problem, which is I get up there and I feel like I've frozen. In reality, they haven't frozen. They've just paused. In reality, to you, it sounds like you waffled and garbled a bit. But
I think that's an accurate diagnosis.
it sounds to me as though that's your perception of what you did.
Okay.
And I would love to see the footage of what actually happened. And I bet it was far better than you believe it was. So the first thing I might do if you're my client is I'd try and get hold of that footage. And I'd try and watch it. And then I might even get you to watch it, which would feel deeply, deeply uncomfortable for you. But then I'd go through it and work out what you were doing really well, how you leaned into your strengths, if there were any issues, what those issues looked like, and how we eradicated them a little bit. It sounds to me like I might want to know a little bit about your process for that. For example, did you practice what you were going to say?
In my head.
Aha.
Yes.
So there we are. If I had a pound. Remember, practicing in your head is not the same as practicing out loud.
Okay, you got to be doing it.
Yeah.
I was the complete opposite because I was meant to start that, and my heart was beating. I froze. I remember we went
And he
in,
said,
Tom
"Tom,
went round the
please
corner.
start."
I said, "Tom, please start this. I can't. I
Fine.
can't do it."
Fine.
How do I get over that?
It's not an answer you're going to like. You're going to start the next one. And then once you've done it, you've done.
Yeah.
A tip for you. I would never, ever ask a client to memorize their speech. You don't want to script it. I like the way you guys, you've got what you want to say in front of you, but you're not glued to it.
Yeah.
So keep that natural level. But if you are struggling with that, what's my opening line? That is the only line I would ever recommend a client commit to memory. Because once you've said that opening line, you go, here's my opening line, bleh, and then you'll just find a way. And so
And
it's a
it
nice
flows off
springboard.
from there.
You got it.
So
You
for
got
the
it.
next event, I start it, and all I memorise is the opening line, and
You've
then
got it.
sort of bullet points
Yeah.
of what I need to say.
And then you're going
So
to
once
jump
he
in.
starts talking, you won't stop.
But it was weird because I think it was about a speech in or 2 speech in. I was fine.
Yeah.
Everything went, and I even took over at one point and started like doing the questions for the audience,
Yeah.
which I wasn't
Yeah.
meant to do.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to what you said earlier, that almost conscious decision to feel the fear and do it anyway.
Feel the fear, do it anyway.
Yeah.
It is normal to feel nervous, but don't give in to the nerves and go, oh my God, I'm nervous, therefore I can't do this. Oh my God, I'm nervous, I'm still going to do this. And that is where the difference will happen.
It's interesting. You said it's normal to feel nervous.
Totally.
And it's like when you went back to childhood, my whole childhood, I avoided every speech in school. I was ill.
Yeah.
I needed to go to matron.
Mystery
there was
headaches.
always something there. And I always struggled with it all the time. And I got to uni and I forced myself to do a speech in front of everyone.
Amazing.
And then I was like, oh, wait. I mean, my top was like wet after from the sweat. But I was like, actually, it's not that bad.
No,
It's
once you've
not
done
that
it.
scary.
Yeah.
And I kept going. So an advice for a young person, let's say they're in school right now
Okay.
watching this, would just be, just do it.
Just fucking do it. Yeah. I didn't ask, am I allowed to swear?
course,
You are
yeah.
allowed to say it.
Fantastic. What a relief to all three of us. Do it. What is the worst that can happen?
Okay.
It might not go exactly as you want it to go. Your audience won't judge you nearly as much as you think your audience will judge you. And once you've done it, like you say, it's done.
Yeah.
And the next time will feel so much easier. And if you do it as a teenager, if you do it in school, when you do it in the real world, and in the real world, by the way, there are no headaches, there are no chits, there are no excuses, it will feel easier.
And a practical tip they can take is just memorize the first line and let the rest flow rather than trying to memorize the whole thing.
You don't need to memorize a script. If you memorize a script, it will feel really uncomfortable. Unless you're in a play, you don't need to know your lines. So, how I would do it is this. Learn the first line only. Learn that one sentence. Once you've got that, that's great. And you can just regurgitate that throughout the talk whenever you want to. Practice. So if you want to know a really good way to quickly put together a presentation, there's your brief, there's your topic. Imagine you're a journalist. What are the 5 questions a journalist would ask you on this subject? And then all you need to do is have those questions written out in front of you, answer those questions out loud and start to practice. And if you do that 3, 4, 5 times before you actually do the real thing, you will feel so much more confident than going, well, it sounds good in my head. Say it out loud, record yourself if you're feeling really brave, listen to it back if you're feeling even braver, and then you will be in such a good position to just deliver. And then once you've done it, do not kick yourself for everything that went wrong. Instead, work out what you're doing well and do more of that.
Would you say that's a useful tool for just like day-to-day communication as well?
Yes, but I'm aware it's not always practical. It's not like you can practice the answers to curveball questions you might get in your next meeting, but you can anticipate the worst possible questions you're going to get. So I have founders and entrepreneurs, people who are very, very capable of answering any question that's thrown at them. But even those guys suffer from something called the curse of knowledge. Their problem is they almost know too much. So they jump right in at the deep end and they end up waffling for 5-10 minutes and they forget the question. So even if those individuals, the individuals who know a little bit too much about their subject matter, even if they'd had a bit of a practice run, what they then ended up delivering would sound better.
Should you pick out one person, well, not one person, but different people that you almost make eye contact with when you're on stage? Because I've heard this online, is you shouldn't speak to the room. You should speak to individuals in the room when you're on stage.
I have heard that one before, and I don't think it's a bad tip. The problem is those 5 individuals are going to start to feel really singled out and they might start to break eye contact with you because they're now starting to feel like this is strangely intense.
I was just wondering, because I think during that speech we did, I was just looking at the very back of the room, not really speaking to the people in the room as such.
Fine. What's really great is you're already working out what you were doing well and what you'd like to change. The back of the room felt comfortable for your first speech. Don't worry about it. I think that's absolutely
Good place
fine.
to start to a fair. Nowhere
It's a
looked
start.
comfortable for me.
I did a gig in front of 300 people once, and the audience were completely blacked out because of the lights. I was very happy when I got
Great,
on stage.
yeah.
So I was like, there's actually no one there. I'm just having a little jam on
Shouting
my
into
own.
a void.
Yeah. I want to talk a bit more about body language. So I'm trying to think what we did when we were on stage. But I think there's a lot of moving around. Does that signal nervousness or confidence, you think?
I'd have to see it, but
Yeah.
my gut instinct is it's not a bad thing. It actually means there's a lot of energy you guys want to burn off. And
Yeah.
that's a good way of doing it. Speakers who walk up and down the stage are just as good as the speakers who stand still and stand tall and look like they want to be there. But there's a very crucial difference. We know when a speaker is just marching up and down to just get rid of that nervous energy. If you did it slowly and deliberately, and at times there were pauses for you to connect to the audience, fantastic. If it was just the two of you just running up and down the stage, I might intervene there
Looking
and
back, it
suggest a
might be.
tweak.
It might have been, yeah.
Like I said, I'd need to see the footage,
Yeah.
but it sounds like it's going in the right direction.
But an actionable body language tip, would it be sort of shoulders back, stand up straight? All the simple stuff, really, that you've got to reinforce.
All of the simple stuff that to this day I am still training people on. If you're going to stand, stand. Stand with your feet shoulder width apart, push your shoulders back. Imagine there's a tiny piece of string just pulling you up like this, and suddenly look how much more confident I appear. Look how much confident you look.
I look great.
You look great. But that's a good way of just kind of looking like you want to be in the room. At the end of the day, all I ever ask of my clients is that they should look like they want to be in the room. So if you're going to stand, stand. If you're going to move, move. That looks good as well. Try and avoid doing a strange little box step on the floor. I see that sometimes. And like I say, that kind of running up and down from one side to the next will make you look like Steve Ballmer, the CEO of Microsoft, who just took all of this a little bit too far. There's a good middle ground here.
Yeah.
You've just got to find it.
I've noticed as well about your hand signals. You move your hand around a lot and it makes it very engaging, but almost like paints a picture.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Naturally, I gesticulate. I use my hands a little bit, but you will find when you watch this footage back, it'll be a real pain for your microphone.
Yeah.
But also I'm doing that to give the audience something to look at. I love those talking heads where people are just adding hands to add a bit of colour, a little bit of visualization.
Like paints a picture as you speak.
Yeah,
Almost.
it gives them something. If you're not a natural gesticulator, don't worry about it. I don't want anyone to start using their hands where they weren't using their hands before, you know? That's going to look very unnatural. But what I say about body language is everything you do should look like you, but with the volume turned up. Or think of it like this. It should look like you, but you after about a pint and a half. Because after about, we've had perhaps too much coffee this morning, all three of us already. But if at the end of the day, you and I were in a nice pub in Suffolk, we'd had about a pint and a half, went, oh, okay, I'm glad that professional stuff is over. Now let's relax and talk about it. I bet the body language would just be so much more relaxed, so much more comfortable, and quite possibly more engaging and interesting.
So you've got to be more animated.
You've got to be a little bit more animated. Lean into what you're good at.
You know what's interesting is talking to a camera really does, it shows you how unanimated you are. When we first started, I was like,
Right, yes.
Susie, thank you so much for joining us. Like, you have to be a bit over
You'd
the
be
top,
like looking,
don't you?
like we'll be looking down there as well, like not even to the camera, to the guest.
It's really interesting. You can just tell instantly that you don't seem like you've got any authority on what you're talking about if you don't go a bit over the top.
Right. So for me, it's not necessarily about going over the top, but what the nerves do is they make us become more professional. We suddenly become, oh my God, I'm doing a podcast. What does a professional podcaster look like? Well, they don't move, they don't blink, they look at the floor, they don't make, and if I do this, no one will notice I'm terrified. And of course, that's the biggest giveaway there is.
One thing I've noticed is that you haven't used a single filler word.
I might have done.
I think I've been counting. And there hasn't been one. So do these ruin credibility?
Absolutely
using
not.
like?
No, it's a huge myth. And as much as you like. And now that we've broken the and vow, you'll find we just and a little bit more naturally. It doesn't ruin your credibility at all. What does ruin your credibility is panicking about using the words and trying to avoid them completely, and it will just drive you slightly crazy. And the output of that is you'll be so focused on being eloquent and articulate, you will forget that the thing I want to see as a professional public speaking coach is you. I want to see personality. I want to see something organic. When you stumble over a sentence, that's not a problem at all because I'm seeing a bit of character. And actually, that's where we're going to separate ourselves from AI. ChatGPT, Claude, they never they never they never go, it was like, literally it was.
Yeah.
But it's because it's void of character. I'd rather have something that was a little bit stumbly and a little bit fumbly, but organic and felt like I was getting a sense of the speaker, than something which is word perfect. And it's very obvious to me someone has read out a script that they're really very proud of. That is a really fast way to kill a connection.
You mentioned AI there. So I don't know if this is going off on a bit of a tangent, but is AI impacting the public speaking world? It's impacting every other industry. How about yours?
It's impacting every industry, and it's naturally going to impact my industry as well, of course. But I think something really good is happening. I'm not one of those people who's going, AI is terrible, ChatGPT is going to ruin everything. I think it's going to help people a lot. But you've got to know how to use it. I think that's what we're really learning. Can it generate a script? Well, yeah, and it'll be fine. But if you're using it to do your best friend's eulogy, it's going to be void of all of the good stuff. Quite seriously. I was at a wedding last weekend, and my favourite part of wedding speeches is where someone who wasn't expecting to get a little bit emotional suddenly gets a little bit emotional. That is not going to happen if you've used ChatGPT or Claude to generate you the perfect wedding speech. It will be good, but it won't be great, and you won't feel much. And I feel as though if you start to do that, you will miss an opportunity to walk away from something that you're really proud of. So those moments in life that ChatGPT and Claude cannot generate, that's down to you. If you are feeling something as the speaker, the audience are going to feel something as well. ChatGPT is phenomenal for research, all of the data stuff. If you're looking for an analogy and you can't think of something, start to go back and forth on an AI tool with that, and it will help you. If you need to fact check the presentation, that's the sort of thing it can do really well. Or if you want to do that thing, this is my topic. What 5 questions do you think a journalist in the style of Giles Corrin would ask me about this subject? That's what it's really good at. And suddenly you've got something you're willing to collaborate with, as opposed to just outsourcing the task fully. So it's great. You've got to be careful with it.
So use AI generative tools for fact checking, for like the boring stuff.
You got it.
But don't replace human emotion with it.
You got it. To my knowledge, and I have tried, none of them have been able to crack a good joke. They just can't.
I always find them very American, the jokes, aren't they?
Yeah, and let's not go down that route.
They're still very like American jokes.
Who is working on the AI British humour? I don't know who we've left this with, but they're slacking.
New startup needed.
Yeah, not me.
You mentioned those speeches that make people emotional. We've all been in a room where someone's doing a great speech and you feel inspired. And we've all been in a room where there's a speech that bores you to death.
Yeah.
They're both confident. What's the difference?
The person who is inspiring you has probably taken more of a risk. And they've put themselves in the shoes of the audience. So this is the thing you need to remember if you want to know the difference between something that feels generic and something that really impacts an audience. This is the big secret. Stop telling the audience what you want to tell them. Start telling the audience what they want to hear. So what do I mean by that? Let's say you've got someone who does a good, confident speech, but it feels generic and it feels a little bit dull. They are probably just imparting knowledge that they know, and they're expecting you to just pick it up. It's the difference between those 2 history teachers you had at school. The person who would just read the stuff out of the book, parrot fashion, and hope that you would pick it up, versus that teacher who would really kind of almost act out the scenes and ask you questions about the characters that change the destiny or fate of other characters. If you can make something come alive, of course that's going to feel less comfortable, and it's certainly going to be a bigger risk to take. But you're going to put your audience in the same headspace you were when you first discovered something. Stop telling people what you want to tell them. Start telling people what they want to hear. Break it down. Simplify it. Bring it to life. Add in human emotion. Riskier, but the outcome is always better.
Fascinating. I think you're right. I'm just thinking about a speech I went to recently, and it was too safe.
Yeah.
It was saying everything you expected them to say.
Yeah.
And therefore it just had no impact. People were standing around. And they were confident.
Yeah,
the
of
person doing the
course.
speech, they were very confident. But like I said, it just didn't have that risk element that drove it to the next level.
Yeah.
It was that a government one, wasn't it?
I wasn't going to say that, but yeah.
Well,
But the other part with it was very, very, very long. And I was very bored within, I think, about a minute.
yes.
Is there an element, like, how do you story tell to the point where it's engaging and interesting? And is it just a combination of all the things? Like, how do you get better at storytelling?
it's a process. But I think, to your point, look at the difference between politicians and comedians. Let's take, for example, I feel like we can talk about him now, our ex-Prime Minister Keir Starmer. And
Yes.
I'm not talking about him politically, but he was famously a bland speaker. The most interesting thing he did during his brief time as Prime Minister was mix up the word hostages and sausages.
Sausages.
Phenomenal. I really liked him at that point because it felt like
It felt
the human had broken
Human,
through.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And we all laughed and went, that's just the sort of thing I
The
would
only
do.
other time I think he sort of caught into the public emotion was when he was talking about his wife and children
Yeah.
at the end
Yeah.
of his tenure as well.
He went to the pub as well the
Yeah.
day he resigned. And that's
Wow,
like the
the
most
pub.
human I've ever seen
Yeah,
the man.
yeah.
It's like, wow, he's normal.
But is that because politicians are being too safe? They don't want to just fucking say it.
I think they don't want to just fucking say it. And I'd love to get into it, but I tend to get a little bit cautious here in case any of my clients are listening and they interpret my words in a way I would not like them to be interpreted. But I absolutely agree. I think now more than ever, we are seeing very safe speakers. And perhaps that's because people have just sort of gotten into the role rather than been put in the role. But yes, I think the difference between a politician and a comedian is politicians are often telling you what you should think, telling you what they're going to do, and then often not doing it. Comedians stand there and they say, you think you've had a bad day? Just you wait till I tell you about my bad day. And we start to laugh and we start to feel a little bit better about our own shitty lives. Because here is someone who's made some cracking observations about how other people think and how other people work and how they operate. So it's that trick the comedians have of just going from story to story to story with an honest observation, as opposed to those political speeches that go on a little bit too long, they're a little bit too formulaic, and they don't consider the feelings of the audience.
I want to talk a bit about Andy Burnham's latest speech. Obviously, we're not a political podcast. We never go into politics, but the thing he did that caught everyone's attention, I can't remember the name, he spoke without the
Podium.
podium
Yeah.
there. What do you make of that?
My industry was on fire about this. I had to come off LinkedIn for 3 days. It was nauseating. No, it was great. We were baffled by this because all prime ministers must have a podium. And over the years, there's been much talk about what sort of podium you should have. Now, I think it was a genius move because the podium is a block between the speaker and the audience.
It broke the barrier.
You got it. I am a whopping 5'2". So and often as a keynote speaker, I'm presented with a podium, and it doesn't matter whether it's a clear podium or a block of wood. That is 90% of my body language gone. And suddenly it feels very us and them, which does not tie back well to my point about it's not telling people what you want to tell them, it's telling people what they want to hear and putting yourself in the same position as the audience. So a microphone is often all you need just to make that connection. A podium, that works as a block.
It's fascinating, isn't it? It's all the small things
Yeah.
that you can change.
Teeny tiny things that make a huge difference. Hand gestures. A point. You'll never see a British politician point because it's considered too rude. In the US, that's assertive. Yeah.
Mr. Trump, he's
Yeah, he is.
always doing that, isn't he? Always. Another recent trend is people speaking for the clip across all
yes.
industries.
Yes.
What do you make of that? How has that affected public speaking as a whole? Has it made it better, almost more engaging because people are trying to get this short snip that is the highlight of the speech?
My honest answer is, I don't know. And perhaps in a month or so, I will have thought about this more and gotten back to you. It's not perhaps as new a sensation as we think. In media training, if they want a politician to make one clear point, and that's the only point we need to get across, you will hear them say that soundbite again and again and again and again. Social media is now the leading force. The three of us probably consume far more news on social media than we do via the BBC, television, radio. And so I think obviously we're making this big change. We're getting talks, clips that are shorter, more concise, more impactful. But that is perhaps part of a bigger conversation about what's the payoff? What are we losing? And the statistics are terrifying in this, but our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. What does that mean for one of my clients? It means the idea that you can speak for 45 minutes or an hour and keep your audience engaged is dead. completely. A TED Talk is 15 minutes long at the max.
Yeah.
And that's about, I think, what we've got.
What do they used to be TED Talks? Has that gone down or has it always been that?
I think the official statistic is that certainly meant to be no longer than 18. 18 is the absolute cutoff point. That was a golden rule officially. There are a couple that are 21 minutes long, but they're exceptional. Generally, they tend to be about 10 minutes to 15 minutes. But I have noticed the shorter your TED Talk, the higher chance of being watched.
Views.
So
I mean, TED Talks are basically a big clipping engine now as well,
that's it, right?
which is really interesting to see. So we've talked about a lot of these things you can do, these actionable steps. How long does it take for someone to go from, like, let's take ourselves from that nervous public speech to a confident public speaker? And how long does it take us to stop worrying what other people think of us in the audience?
For the latter, a lifetime. Have you ever got that person in your life who's at their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they just stop giving a fuck?
Yeah.
I hope I get to that stage soon enough. They just, and you go, Nan, you can't say that. And this is the last time we take you out. But I think they reach that stage where they just don't care what other people think of them. And there's a good side of that and a less good side of that. But you want to find a position where you feel like you can say what you want to say. If you have an opinion that's different to someone else, it goes back to that old quote of, I may not agree with what you say, but I will defend with my life your right to say it. Freedom of speech is so important. It takes a lifetime to get to that point where we're truly comfortable to just talk about what we want to talk about. And I've always found that the people who do that in a polite, courteous, deeply respectful way go a lot further than the people who just come up with some generic things or just echo what they think other people want to hear. Don't want to stay in that echo chamber. So that's the work of a lifetime. If you're looking for instant confidence, like I say, you can apply that as easy as a fake tan. You can act out the body language of a very confident person and feel the magic sensation as you yourself start to feel like you might have been that confident person all along. The true answer is experience. The more you do this, the better you will get at it. When my clients have been through a lot of big speeches with me, when we've taken them from someone who would be taking, and I've had clients like this, speakers who were so nervous they would take beta blockers to slow their heart rate down, to someone who can just address the room and the shareholders and watch amazing things happen. They kind of go to me, they go, I've gone through this process. It's almost become addictive. What is the next step? I love this adrenaline rush that I'm getting. It can be addictive to some of my clients. The very last and hardest, highest bar is go and do stand-up comedy.
That we talked about that before.
There you go.
We had, do you know Roy Samuel?
I know of him.
Yeah, he did a stand-up comedy stint, and he said it's the scariest thing he's ever done. And when he did that, he could pitch to hundreds of investors.
Exactly.
Anyone.
Yep.
Like that is it's the highest level of putting yourself out there, essentially.
The last test.
Yeah. Have you
the
done
final boss of public speaking. Do you know, I did it a little bit at drama school and I loved it.
Really? You loved it?
I tanked a lot, but I think I landed about 3 jokes and I was delighted. I was like, am I? Very, very funny? Yes, I am. Good.
I'm going to set you a challenge to do a public
go
comedy
for it.
night.
I'll come along. We'll all get drunk beforehand. That'll help.
We'll just look at you and we'll laugh. Thank you so much for coming on today. Just
thank you for having me.
Start to wrap up the conversation. Do you have a pre-talk routine? Is there something you do that a listener could take away?
It's a very interesting question. I do. I don't often tell people this, but I like
highly classified.
Highly classified. I do. I prepare. I practice. You will often see me walking down the street, talking out loud to myself, hearing the things I'm going to say. Most importantly, I listen to music.
Okay.
So I have a specific playlist with a little bit of LL Cool J and some other people you might not expect to hear on that. But I listen to those kind of voices and I think, of course I can do this. And even if I can't, I'm going to pretend I can do this and see what happens. And I found that's worked for me so far.
Great.
How did you select the music on the playlist? Was there what was behind that?
It's anything that I'm into, and I find a little bit of hip hop works very well. So if you want my hip hop list, I will absolutely send that to you.
Yes.
Yeah, little Sims.
You like hip hop? Send it over.
Perfect. We'll do that.
And if there's one key takeaway a young person listening could learn from this interview, what would you want it to be?
I'm going to be strong. I'm going to be controversial. You do not have a right to feel comfortable all the time. But the good news is you can get better at anything, and don't let anyone else tell you you can't. You just have to feel that discomfort and just fucking say it anyway.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.